I'm going to try to do this, and hopefully I can do it. I might try to get a hike in this today. Last time I talked about that Benjamin Foster, who happened, curiously enough, happened to have graduated from the same high school I did, although I graduated some 14 or 15 years before he was born. I talked about him and how we don't take violence against women, and by extension children, seriously. And so when I heard about this, about Paul Gadd, who has the stage name of Gary Glitter, he's much more popular in Europe and especially the UK than he ever was in the United States, although he did have a measure of success there in the early 70s. His early release helped make me think about how we don't take it seriously enough. We don't take violence seriously enough. And you don't have to be a nobody like Benjamin Foster, who remained a nobody and died a nobody. And you don't have to be somebody who used to be somebody, who then became a nobody and remained a nobody. It doesn't matter which you are. Nobody still even takes any of this seriously at all. So the best thing that could have happened to Paul Gadd was to stay in prison, because it's never going to be accepted. I mean, this guy crossed the boundary into being a pariah, and not very many people do. Old Foster killed himself rather than go to prison again. This guy, and Foster, remember, killed 2 people before he killed himself. I'll just update that, and that was it. And that was the end of him. But this guy has nothing but ostracism facing him, and justifiably so. There is a line in our society, in just about every society, where nobody crosses, and that's molesting kids. And we have this part of this queer theory shit, and part of this gender identity shit, and all this drag queen crap in the schools and in the libraries. Part of this is motivated by the desire to reduce the shame and even decriminalize molestation of kids. And it ain't gonna happen. And this is the textbook case here. And it's really his case. Well, I'm going to say here, I'm going to just call him by his real name because it just sounds better. But Gadd is the UK version of Phil Spector. And I talked about Phil Spector right after he died in early 2021. And about how his whole life, he had so many triumphs, but he had that mental illness that finally took over and he killed somebody. Now this guy, Gadd, had everything going for him. And I will admit that listening, and I've played back some of the stuff that he did, that he performed in the 70s especially. And Top of the Pops, I think it's called, in the UK. It's a popular music program that's been around forever. He was a regular on that show. And of course he would lip sync, and his band would lip sync and all that. Because that was the style then. Unless it was Ed Sullivan, where they had to perform live. There was no lip syncing ever allowed on that. But he was a regular on that show. And I have to say, he really was good. As a performer, he was top class. The material that he co-wrote with his producer, or whatever the guy was, Mike Leander, that was top-notch material. And he had the showmanship. Okay, he had all that going for him. But he screwed up. And the whispers were there as early as the mid-70s that he was out messing around with underage girls. And then and he beat back some of that rap. He was accused of it. He beat it back. But then, maybe subconsciously, he wanted to be caught. Because in 1999, he had something was on the fritz on his computer, and I bet you it was one of those viruses, and he wanted to take it in to get it fixed. And then it was all over. You know, he'd had some comebacks, he'd had ups and downs, fits and spurts in his career. And then he went in and he got that laptop looked at, and it was over. There was something like 4,000 images of kiddie porn. And there was no way he could get out of that. There was no way he could get out of that. He couldn't pull a Pete Townsend and say, I was doing research for a book or whatever Townsend claimed he was doing it for. This guy didn't have the excuse. So he got in big time trouble there. And then it was downhill all the way from that point. And here, this article, both from The Guardian, and it has a list of all the things that, well, I mean, it's, you know, he's got like a rap sheet a mile long, this guy. But it says here he was sentenced to 4 months in prison in 1999 after he pleaded guilty to 54 charges of making indecent photographs of children under 16. So it wasn't a matter of just download. I mean, he made indecent photographs. And it says here the offenses came to light after police launched an investigation when child abuse images were found on a computer that Gadd, because I'm using his real name, had taken to a branch of PC World for repair. So that was the end of his career. And it's unsalvageable. Why they gave him a slap on the wrist then, I don't know. You'd be in prison for 20 years here in this country. Mark my words. They'd throw you in prison for a lot longer than that in the United States for doing that. But UK gave him a slap on the wrist. And then what happened after that? They're kind of just bouncing all over the place. It says his most recent conviction was in 2015 when he was sentenced to 16 years in prison for sexually abusing 3 schoolgirls in the 1970s and 80s. He was found guilty at the end of a 3-week trial of 1 count of attempted rape, 1 count of unlawful sexual intercourse with a girl under 13, and 4 counts of indecent assault. 2 girls, aged 12 and 13, were attacked by Glitter after he invited them backstage to his dressing room and isolated them from their mothers. His youngest victim was below the age of 10 when he crept into her bed and tried to rape her in 1975. Holy shit! That was right at the peak of his career. Holy damn shit. I mean, this is male entitlement. Thinking you're owed this crap. And yeah, it was too common. Well, below age 10 wasn't. Below age 13 wasn't common. Even in the most depraved rock circles. So he was even beyond that. And we all know about Jimmy Page. We all know about what the hell? Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones. You know, did a lot of stuff they shouldn't have ever been doing. We know that. But this one was even more so. 10-year-olds, what the hell? And then, it's hard to overstate it. And then, of course, he kept bouncing around from country to country after all this stuff because the countries wouldn't have him. So then, Gadd was sentenced to 3 years in jail in March of 2006 for sexually molesting 2 girls. The judge and 2 strong jury heard that he had kissed and fondled D, aged 11, and Ng, aged I guess it's Ng. I can't do this. NG, age 10. A charge of child rape had been dropped, but Glitter was tried for the lesser crime of obscene acts. Glitter abused the girls in his home in the city of Vung Tau. I'm not very good at foreign names. Before being arrested at an airport while trying to leave the country in November 2005. And one of the girls had told the BBC how she met him And then he grabbed me and dragged me into the bedroom, and that's when he did it to me. I was scared, really scared, so scared. And he could have been executed in one of those countries for doing that. And it might have been Vietnam. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it, where he could have gotten death for that. But this is the stuff that our queer theory crowd wants to make legal. It ain't happening, folks. This guy recorded songs that were worthy of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But he has less chance of getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame than Pete Rose has of getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Well, hell, wait a minute. He has less chance, this Gadd, Paul Gadd, has less chance of getting in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame than Pete Rose would have going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's how impossible it is. But, like I said, we don't take it seriously. And when this guy got out, and of course the Daily Mail is always there, always manages to find where they're at. There were vigilantes and such that were surrounding the place where Gadd was staying. And of course that makes it worse. All that does is make it worse. But and of course supposedly he's on a very strict, very tight leash from now on to on what he can do, where he can go, who he can associate with. But it's a mess. But as I said, there's a fine line. There's a line that you don't cross. This guy crossed it time and time and time and time again. And he's typical of that. As a celebrity, he went the extreme, but for what he is, a child molester, this is routine stuff. But in any case, he got off pretty damned easy. I think. Half the time he should have been in there. Now, I don't know if there's health issues. I don't know what it is. Or they took pity on him. I don't know. Or it's just the fact he was a once quite popular entertainer. But it doesn't matter. I mean he's done. He's done. No matter he's cooked. So if he ends up living a year, I'll be surprised. If he dies in the next year of natural causes, since he's 78, and he'll be 79 later this year in May, I think. Then I could get it. Then I would understand it. But somebody may decide to finish the job. And what a deal! What a deal! This is one hell of a world when we're trying to normalize this kind of crap. And yeah, he deserves to rot in hell. He should have been in prison the rest of his life. And anyway, that's about all I have to say about that. But I had to just point this out as an example of how little we take seriously crimes against women and crimes against children. And it doesn't matter if you're obscure or you were once famous. Doesn't matter. We live in a very screwed up world when it comes to women and children. That's it.